Hey, peace be upon you. Welcome to Lit Talk. Being a student of literature, you may have wondered what literature actually is and what it comprises. There are many definitions and answers to these questions. Many critics have defined literature in many ways, and each person defines it in his own way, and you may have got confused. Some critics define literature as means of magic that helps one to escape from the real world. But is it all what literature is? No. All literature is not imaginative or fictional. There can be fictional as well as non-fictional pieces of literature. The poem Daffodils by William Wordsworth and the poem Road Not Taken by Robert Frost are included in the literature. Same time, the novel series like Harry Potter or Twilight, which that we read in our leisure time, the journals that we read to get information, and the story like the hare and the tortoise that our grandparents might have narrated to us at the bedtime, all belong to the wonderful world of literature. The world of literature is very vast, wide, infinity, and enchanting. So, in this video, I am going to discuss about what is literature. So, welcome to the world of literature. What is literature? To define literature is very task, and the definition of literature is constantly changing and evolving. Written work, especially those considered from the lasting artistic merit. This is the definition given by Oxford Dictionary. And another definition: literature is written work like poem, plays, and novel which are of artistic value. Literature is a printed materials giving information about something. From these definitions, we get that literature should be written one or printed one, and it should have artistic value, and also the materials like newspaper and magazine which give information about something also include in literature. And the term literature is derived from the Latin word literatura, which means writing formed with letters. Next, forms of literature. Literature has three forms: oral, written, visual. Literature that is passed from one generation to next generation by word of mouth is called oral literature. Ballads are the example of oral literature. Then the literature that is in manuscript and printed form is called written literature. Literature that is meant to be performed before the people or the audience is called a visual literature. Movies, plays that performed on the stage are included in visual literature. Okay, these are the forms of literature. Next one, genres of literature. Literature has three genres: prose, poetry, and drama. Prose is divided into fiction and non-fiction. Poetry is divided into narrative, lyric, and elegy. Drama is divided into historical, comedy, and tragedy. Fairy tale, mythology, legend, novel, novella, short story, fable, parable, and allegory are the different type of fiction. Autobiography, biography, newspaper, magazine, journal are the different type of non-fiction. And the epic, ballad, idyll, metrical romances are the different type of narrative poem. Okay, hope it is clear, and let's go to the detailed study of these genres of literature. Prose is the one of the genres of literature, and it is the form of language that we commonly use it in newspaper, journal, movies, and writings on history, philosophy, and science and law. It is very simple and loosely defined structure. It means there is no defined role or defined structure for the prose. So its prose style is used in spoken dialogue and the fictional composition. It is the representative form of language. It has grammatical structure. It follows grammatical structure, but it has no rhythmic structure like poems. Prose is two types, fiction and non-fiction. Fiction completely deals with the imaginary thing. It's a kind of prose and it deals with the magical thing or supernatural thing. We read the fiction for pleasure or to kill our free time, but the non-fiction read by people to earn things or learn things or to get information. Fairy tale, mythology, legend, novel, novella, short story, fable, parable, allegory are the different kinds of fiction. Let's go to the brief description of kinds of fiction. Fairy tale is the story that presents astonishing and unbelievable stories in the imaginary world or magical world. Actually, it is read by children, and fairies, eves, gnomes, and magicians are the imaginary characters in this fairy tale. Also, kings, queens, princes are also the characters in fairy tales. Supernatural setting is there, magical world is there. Cinderella and Snow White and Thumbelina are the example of fairy tale. Next one is the mythology. It is the collection of myths. It is the story about a specific person, like god, goddess, and it is about culture and religion, and it shares some beliefs and rituals that people hold. The labors of Hercules and Prometheus is the example of mythology. Legend is another kind of fiction. It is the story about heroic deeds of historical figures who lived at a particular time. That is, a person who lived in a particular time, and the writers take his life story or his heroic deeds. Kayangulam Kochunni is the example of legend. Legends are actually based on the real fact and that presented in real situation. King Arthur and his Knight of the Round Table, Robin Hood by Howard Pyle, and Kayangulam Kochunni are the finite example of legend. A novel is another kind of prose. It is long narrative and it presents stories of imaginary characters, incidents, and settings. It presents connected sequence of event. The word novel derived from Italian word novella, and it means new. The main elements in story are plot, character, conflict, setting, and theme. Different types of novels are there: prose romances, realistic fiction, gothic novel, picaresque, domestic, regional novel, historical novel, psychological novel, epistolary novel. These are the different types of novels. Next one, novella. Novella is longer than a short story but shorter than a novel. D.H. Lawrence, Man Who Died is the example of novella. Short story, it is a work of fiction that is shorter than a novella. It focuses on single event or single incident which is set in single settings. The Postmaster by Rabindranath Tagore and Astrologer's Day by R.K. Narayan are the example of short story. Fable, it is the story with animals. Animals are the main character in fable. It teaches moral lesson, highly philosophical, but it's very simple. It is understood by small children. The Hare and Tortoise, Aesop fables are the examples of fable. Parables, it is also moralistic story. It is in prose style, but in sometimes it is in verse style. It teaches one or more lessons or ideologies. Difference between fable and parable is in parables characters are human beings, but in fables characters are animals. That is the difference between fable and parables. Jesus' story is the example of parable. The last one, allegory. In the allegory, characters or things or the incident that are kept symbolic meaning or hidden meaning are there in the allegory. Animal Farm by George Orwell is the example of allegory. The writers used this to teach or explaining things or teach moral principle. Okay, this is the brief description of allegory. Today we discussed about what is literature, forms of literature and genres of literature, and what is prose, what is fiction, different kinds of fiction. Let's stop here. In this In next part we will discuss about what is non-fiction, what are the different types of non-fiction, what is poetry and what is drama. Let's wait for my next video. I hope you will like this video, and don't forget to subscribe my channel and like my video. Thank you for watching.